Kalymnos, a Greek island way out in the Aegean Sea, renowned for its incredible sport climbing, beautiful sunsets and relaxed way of life. Climbers from around the world flock to this stunning island to explore its many crags and caves in search of world-class routes. And in late November, Rob and I flew out to spend a week sport climbing and soaking up some winter sun. This was a trip of multiple triumphs.
Oh, so good!
That was bloody brilliant!
And numerous failures.
I didn't really want to do it.
Oh, I can't even hold on.
It spits nails!
And of course, none of it went quite as we had planned.
Behind us is rain and dark clouds.
Every single one of these days has ended in the dark.
I think all the ferries have been cancelled until Monday. A bit windy!
Stay tuned for an exciting misadventure where we climb some insane routes, acclimatise to fear, and ultimately learn what climbing is really all about. But first, we had to get there. With Kalymnos being such a popular climbing destination, you'd think it would be simple to get there from the UK. But it's not. In our case, we took a flight from London to Athens, then took a small prop plane from Athens to Kos, across some pretty horrendous turbulence.
Death grip.
And from there we planned to take a ferry to Kalymnos. However, as we landed on Kos, we were greeted by sheets of driving rain and extremely strong winds. And then we received a piece of bad news.
We might have to stay in Kos for 2 days because the weather is so bad. The ferries may have been cancelled until Monday. We are potentially stuck here for a couple of days, maybe, just because the weather is a bit shit. We flew in and it was extremely windy, very rainy, and then we were rushed onto a little bus and the rain was so strong that it was raining inside the bus.
They can't close the van doors.
We'll cobble together a plan for the rest of today. And for me, that probably means going and finding lots of cats. She coming.
So far on this trip, we have experienced torrential downpours, we've experienced horrific turbulence as we flew over a storm, then we experienced our ferry being cancelled, and now we're stuck functionally on Kos. We can literally, from our apartment, look out and see Kalymnos, but we can't get there because of the weather.
Although staying on Kos had not been our original plan, with 50-mile-an-hour winds and no hope of getting to Kalymnos until the weather improved, we hurriedly rented a car, booked an apartment and cobbled together some ideas of what we could do. For the first day, this primarily involved tucking into large piles of Greek food. We also walked to the beach to see for ourselves just how rough the sea really was, and ended up getting completely soaked.
These cars are going to rust to fuck, I tell you what.
Today marks the second day on the island of Kos. It is still very, very windy, and there's no ferries running until maybe later this evening, but we're going to have to stay another day, which is fine. Not the intended plan. There is a very good-looking bouldering area. Unfortunately, nowhere on the island rents bouldering mats. And then another place we're thinking about going to is a sort of natural thermal spring. So that's today's plan. Go try and make the most of this unplanned trip to Kos.
So for any future people stuck in Kos because your ferry to Kalymnos has been cancelled because of weather, here's what you can expect.
For our improvised day on Kos, we had read about a bouldering area called the Hippocrates Boulders, as well as a natural thermal spring, so we made it our mission to explore both of these areas whilst we waited for the weather to clear up. Given our lack of pads, all the boulders felt like terrifying highballs, so we, or rather Rob, spent a while trying out the lower sections of some routes, ultimately sending nothing but having fun nonetheless. The wind was showing absolutely no sign of ceasing and was blowing dust into our eyes like there was no tomorrow, so we headed east in search of the hot spring.
Right, so we found the thermal spring, but it actually turns out it's more like a thermal puddle. Robert thought it was a good idea to have a go at sitting in it, but it's only about as deep as your ankle. This is amazing! And we've got it all to ourselves. There were some locals and some people from Turkey that turned up just to take pictures, and one of them dipped their toe in. And it didn't look worth sitting in, but it really is.
He's looking very relaxed.
Apparently, the sea in winter washes all the sand up the beach, and then in spring, the locals come with shovels and dig out this whole area, and it's apparently packed with people. There's no one around, and it's like the best weather to do it in. It's a bit chilly today. We've been on Kos for the last 2 days, and actually it was pretty good. We really made the most of our extra spare day here. We explored the boulders a little bit, it was pretty fun, and then we headed over to sort of this thermal spring on the other side of Kos, and it was amazing. I loved it. We just watched the sunset and sat in this puddle of hot water. It was such a good experience. So I think with a bit of luck we might be going to Kalymnos today. The sea looks a lot calmer. There are actually boats on the water, which is very promising. Order of events: clean up the accommodation, pack the car, drive to the airport, hand the car back, catch a taxi to the ferry terminal, get ferry to Kalymnos, and then we're finally sorted, so it's going to be a day of faff. Finally, after 3 days, we've made it to Kalymnos. I've also had a very nice birthday so far. The owners of this place had left a cheesecake in the fridge, which was very kind of them. And we're in this beautiful hillside apartment. We've got a view over the sea and the crags, and then there's loads of amazing climbing right behind the apartment. But it's a gorgeous day, so we're going to head out and try some climbing. Come to Ari area, and we have done a total of 1 climb.
So that was your first Kalymnos climb?
Yep, it was very easy. It was a full sea. It's hardly noteworthy. And now we're turning around to go a bit higher up so that I can try a 6B. But it's very pleasant. The rock quality is amazing, and the view looks like this. I'll let you into a slight caveat of the whole trip. I might be medium strong, but when it comes to sport climbing outdoors, I suddenly forget that I'm a medium strong climber and become very weak and scared. So the whole premise of this trip is trying to get me a little bit less terrified of lead climbing. But for some reason I'm less scared when I'm trad climbing, and I don't know. Don't ask.
I think what I was trying to say is that the thing that holds me back the most in my climbing is fear, particularly in sport climbing.
Sit really good. Always take a small fall at the next bolt.
As such, we did a very small amount of fall practice,
How was that?
and I came up with some naff excuses as to why I didn't want to do more.
Because it was a slab, I was less keen on taking a fall.
Then Rob cruised up some 6Bs to finish the day on, just as the sun started to set.
The best part about today is that our accommodation is a 5-minute walk down there. And now we're going to head back and have some kind of birthday dinner.
Experience so far?
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Holiday grades are real though. That 6B plus was unbelievably friendly. That would have been a Cheddar Gorge 5A.
So much later than anticipated, we are finally leaving. I think it's probably about 9 AM at this point. A lot of the crags that were recommended to us said get there early to avoid the crowds. And this is our version of early. Not early at all.
I don't know if you can tell, but it's quite early in the morning. I'll get more enthusiastic later once I'm awake. So the plan for today is, this morning, we're going to the Grand Grotto, see what that's all about. People rave about it. It's the biggest feature on Kalymnos, giant cave. So that's going to be hopefully awesome. And then later we're going to find somewhere a little bit more quiet, with less people, where Lucy can project without feeling the pressure of having lots of other really good climbers around.
Thoughts so far?
Yeah, it looks absolutely insane. Are you seeing this? Like, that's a hell of a feature. Like, we're looking down there from the road and we could see these small dots and they turn out to be people. And you're like, oh, that must be a 20-meter high cave. You know it's not, but you get a bit closer and you start seeing the people come into view and you're like, ah, that's a really big cave. The left-hand side of the cave, as we look at it, it looks insane, but it also is really hard. The easiest one there is a 7A, which, you know, maybe we could do. And then there's some easier ones too. Apparently the 6A plus is really polished. So maybe we'll start on Taz. My leg's starting to go numb.
Rob has never worn knee pads in earnest before, and this is the largest size that they had. And it only barely goes around his thigh.
What is the problem? Buoyed by the holiday grades for the previous day and keen to make up for lost time on the trip, I chose Taz, a 6C, as our warm-up climb. The route runs up an immaculate line of Tufas and looks so good from the ground that I shouldn't have been surprised at the level of polish. It ended up being a bit more of a battle than the easy warm-up I'd envisioned. But I managed to clip the chains in a wanna and was lowered with a big smile on my face.
That's me, yep. Oh, so good.
Apologies if you can hear the sound of construction traffic. It's kind of happening down there and then echoing all around this absolutely giant cave. So that's going to be our backing track for today. So me and Rob have just warmed up on Taz, which is a 6C. I wouldn't have normally done a 6C as my warm-up, but Rob did it first and put the jaws in. He on-sighted it, as per usual. 6C is a grade that is well below his limit and apparently well above mine because I didn't finish it and dogged a couple of the clips. You take? Which is a bit of a shame.
In classic Lucy on a sport route style, fear and anxiety became the two overwhelming emotions, and I bottled it at the first crux.
I don't really want to do it.
I tend to give myself a hard time afterwards and become super demotivated by my performance.
Okay, really good though.
Not really.
It was.
It was crap.
Some crap. You did a really good job.
Oh, I hope you enjoy doing it twice.
It's a strange dichotomy, as when I'm on the wall, the primary emotion is the fear of falling, but when I come down, the primary emotion is that of disappointment and failure.
Initial thoughts on that climb, it was a good climb, but definitely quite polished. Even the handholds were polished. So polished handholds was also slightly unnerving, but it's starting to busy up right now. Now we've come to the other side of the cave and Rob would like to climb a 7C, which in the guidebook says that it's 3 7As stacked on top of each other and it's just an endurance test piece, but it's pre-clipped so you won't need to use our own drawers and you can lower off at any point. So that's the plan, and then I think we're going to head around the corner to some slightly less overhanging places, maybe a little bit quieter as well.
I'm about to give a 7C a go. I didn't think I'd be going for a 7C this trip, but all the UKC descriptions describe it as stacked 7As with good rest. The whole thing's apparently fully three-dimensional. We're hanging off this giant tooth, there's amazing rests. But this is just incredible. I can't give it a miss. Over the years, I've mostly dealt with my fear of falling, but I also find that I rarely really push myself. Priapos is the hardest climb that I've ever seriously pulled onto, and even getting off the floor was surprising. To be honest, even though I didn't top the route, trying really hard felt really bloody good. When I look back on the trip to Kalymnos, it's the ones I didn't do that really challenged me that I remember.
Just come down for the route. I didn't send it, not even close. I was maybe a third of the way up. But those moves, every move was just immaculate 3D climbing. Feet on one side, hands on the other. It's not like face climbing where there's only one way to hold the holds. There are crimps and that's it. On this, you could use anything, anywhere. And it would still be really hard because it was wildly overhung at about 35 degrees. I only wish that I'd stayed on, because the problem with this route is that as soon as you take a drop, that's it. And you can see these amazing Tufas behind and above me. So look at all that.
So we've just had some lunch whilst sitting in some dried goat shit. The wind's picking up a little bit. You can kind of see it gusting across the bay in front of us. But I think we're gonna head down to a different crag. But it's been pretty epic. Definitely a very photogenic crag. All right, made it to our second crag of the day, and I'm gonna try and do Iliada, which is a 6A, and then there's a nice looking 6B or 6B plus next to it, which I might try after that. And there's a cave where Rob is planning on trying a 7B. Is that right? 7B plus. 7B plus. Please don't rain.
Grasping for positivity, but ultimately feeling quite shaken after not sending anything and being scared, I wasn't in the best frame of mind.
What am I doing?
My fear of falling was almost matched by my fear of failure at this point, so to save disappointment and to actually get a send in, I hopped on what I thought was going to be a 6A to warm myself up again, but yet again found myself struggling when I arrived at the crux.
No.
So I tried it again.
Falling!
And again. And again. Eventually, I found a sequence that kind of worked, but I was so gassed by that point, and I dogged the route to hell just trying this one move, that I didn't bother trying to clip properly. The crux itself was this tiny little 2-finger pocket that was sharp enough to shred your skin after only a few tries. A bit more faffing and cheating later, I managed to claw my way up past the crux, but then Rob informed me that I was on the wrong line.
Apparently, I'm on a 6B. Quickly rectified by switching over to a fucking 6A. Thank you very much.
And in an effort to save my rapidly dissipating levels of psych, I switched to the easier route next door.
Okie dokie.
So here I was again, for the second time that day, pumped, scared and disappointed with myself. Why does it always come to this? I wondered as I stripped the route. Why do I always fail at these hurdles in my climbing? This definitely wasn't how I imagined the route going.
Well, it turns out that that was actually a 6B, which was a complete misread of the route by me. Iliada was actually right next to it and was described as the obvious line, and I picked what I thought was the obvious line, but was actually less obvious. I gave it a good stab, but sharp limestone pockets that are quite far away are not really my forte. So we're going to head down now to the 7B and see how Rob gets on over there.
Still elated by my attempt on Priapos, I hopped on Kalymnos, a 7B+, hoping that with enough effort I'd be able to pull through and clip the chains. The route follows a brilliant line of steep Tufas, and while only 15 metres long, it's incredibly burly and requires tons of power. I consider myself to be more of a slab climber than an overhang climber, so this route was definitely my anti-style, and I therefore found it really pretty challenging. Although I managed to get through the crux moves near the bottom, When it came to pulling through a burly overhung roof, my forearms just weren't up to the job.
Oh, I can't even hold on.
My forearms were essentially on fire, meaning that I couldn't even hold the huge jugs just before the chains and took a final whip without sending the route.
Okay, I'm not at the top. You got me? Ah.
So I rather foolishly hopped on this 7B Plus behind me in the hopes that a combination of holiday grades and sheer optimism would power me through the climb. However, I was shut down sorely. The climb itself is really a climb of two parts. The first 4 clips are maybe, I'd say no harder than about 7A. And then you came up to this boulder problem. The boulder problem was ridiculous. You had a mono pocket, then you had to throw for this huge jug out to the left. The problem was, by the time I'd worked out how to do the move, I was so absolutely knackered that the continuation of huge, lovely holds on an upside down roof was not enough to get me to the top. So, one to come back to if we're in Kalymnos long enough.
You have a selfie stick coming out of your bag.
It's not a selfie stick, it's a clip stick. I'm a climber, not an influencer.
You are an influencer.
Fuck!
So I'm going to finish my day on beautiful Helena, which is a 6A plus, and it is a 6A plus this time because I've double checked that I'm going on the right route. We don't have a lot of time, a bit like yesterday. I am climbing potentially into the dark. The sun's just setting, so I think we've got maybe half an hour of daylight and we'll have to head back. Brilliant! I'm just psyched. Even though it was easy, easy means fun. So I had fun, a lot of fun on that climb. It was just jug after jug after jug, but like with technical moves in between, a bit run out, but actually didn't really end up noticing how spaced the bolts were because I was just enjoying it too much. So yeah, perfect climb to end the day on.
Psyched to have finished the day on a high note, this climb reminded me of the reason why we had come here, to simply climb some rocks and enjoy it. I had been too focused on grades and felt guilty for not trying harder, but something about this route unlocked the mental block that had been following me all day, and it felt wonderful to simply focus on the movement and take in the views. Thank you so much for watching and stay tuned for more Kalymnos videos. We'll see you on the next adventure.
You right there, mate?
I think it's a lady, actually.
You reckon so? How can you tell?